You have $100, not $10,000, not an inheritance, not a bonus, just $100. The amount that disappears between the 1st and the 15th of every month without any clear explanation. A dinner you barely remember, a subscription you forgot to cancel, a few small purchases that meant nothing on their own, and together, ate through $100. Today, we're talking about what happens when that $100 goes somewhere different. Not where it usually goes, but somewhere it starts to work. The math here is slower than the internet will tell you. The early years look unimpressive, and that's exactly why most people stop. But the first $100 you invest consistently changes how you see money. And that changes everything else. What if you don't have $100 right now? Then start with $25 or $50. The math is the same, just slower. And in the meantime, look for ways to add a little on top. A small side job on weekends, some freelance work, selling things you don't use anymore. Not to get rich from it, but to gradually build up to $100 a month and then increase from there. The main thing is to start with whatever you have right now. If this topic interests you, subscribe and watch to the end. Let's go. Month 1. Tuesday evening. You open a brokerage app. You sign up, link your bank account, set up an automatic transfer of $100 on the 1st of every month, and choose an index fund. Look for a broad market fund with a low fee, under 0.1% per year. You hit Confirm. One more thing while you're here. If you're in the US, open this account inside a Roth IRA, not a regular brokerage account. Everything your portfolio earns inside a Roth IRA grows tax-free. Forever. It doesn't change what you put in, but it changes the final number, 30 years from now, significantly. You close the app. That's it. 20 minutes. The next morning, you wake up, and everything looks exactly the same as yesterday. Same coffee. Same commute. The account has $100 in it, and the market moved slightly in one direction or another. Nothing changed. Or one thing did. The night before, you were someone who was going to start investing someday. Now you're someone who invests. That's not the same thing. Not because you became better or worse, but because now you have an account with real money doing real things. And that changes how you look at everything else. Research shows that the most reliable predictor of whether someone continues to invest is simply the fact that they already started. Not the amount, not the return, just having an account with money in it. You just crossed that line. Month 6. The first test. The market drops 8% in 3 weeks. You've put in $600. The account shows $563, minus $37. Your brain, which evolved in an environment where loss meant real danger, reacts in a way that's completely out of proportion to what actually happened. $37 of paper loss feels like a signal that you need to do something. This is the first test. Not a financial one, a psychological one. Here's what's important to understand about a market drop. When the price of a fund falls, you're not losing shares. You're buying the same shares cheaper than you did last month. Your next automatic transfer of $100 will buy more than the previous one did. A drop is not a threat to someone who keeps investing. It's a discount. The people who understand this look at the $563, close the app, and keep going. The people who don't sell, move to cash, and wait for the right moment to get back in. The right moment never arrives with a clear signal. The market recovers while they're waiting. They buy back in at a higher price than they sold. JP Morgan found that missing just the 10 best trading days between 2003 and 2023 cut returns in half. Most of those 10 days happened within 2 weeks of the worst days. The people sitting in cash, waiting for stability, missed the recovery that started while the news still looked terrible. Your $600 became $563. You closed the app. You did nothing. That was the right answer. Year 1, $1,200. 12 months, 12 transfers of $100. Total invested, $1,200. At a 7% average annual return, the balance is roughly $1,247. You made $47 beyond what you put in, about the cost of one dinner out. Looks unimpressive? Yes, but something is happening here that doesn't show up in the balance. You start noticing things you didn't notice before. The fee on the fund in your 401k that charges 1.2%, when a comparable option charges 0.03. The credit card interest that eats more every month than the investment is producing. The subscription at $180 a year that you use twice. The $100 a month created a new way of seeing. Not because you became a different person, but because now you have an account, and someone who tracks returns starts seeing costs differently. $47 this year. $94 next year on the same contributions because the base is bigger. Then $145. The compounding isn't dramatic yet, but it's there. And every month you continue gives it more base to work from. Year 5, $6,000. 60 months, $6,000 invested. At 7% average annual return, the balance is around $7,200. You made $1,200 beyond your contributions. That's already 20% of the total balance. Not nothing. And here's what matters. Every month, your money is generating roughly $42 just by existing. Half of your monthly contribution is appearing without any effort on your part. In a few years, that monthly return from the portfolio will exceed your monthly contribution. The money will be contributing more than you are. But here's what nobody warns you about at year 5. This is the most dangerous moment for the temptation to pause. Your income is higher than when you started. The $100 automatic transfer that felt meaningful in month 1 now feels like routine, almost too small to matter. And the voice that says, "I can skip a month or two, it's not a big deal," is loudest exactly when consistency matters most. If you pause for 3 years at year 5 and resume at year 8, you won't just lose $3,600 in missed contributions. You'll lose the compounding on that money for the remaining 20 years of the investment horizon. At 7% annual returns, that's around $19,000. The pause that felt minor was a $19,000 decision, made carelessly. Don't pause. If your income allows, increase it. But don't stop. Year 10, $12,000. 10 years, $12,000 invested. Balance, around $17,400. The market did $5,400 worth of work this year. You did the rest. Next year, the market will do slightly more than you. Then, a little more again. The crossover point, the moment when the annual return exceeds your annual contribution, happens around year 12 or 13 at this pace. After that, you could stop contributing entirely, and the account would still grow every year by more than you were putting in. But you probably won't stop. Because by year 10, this isn't discipline anymore. It's just part of life. The $100 leaves on the first of the month the same way rent does. Automatically, without thinking, without asking whether this is the month to do it. And something else happened by year 10, something harder to measure than the balance. You have 10 years of evidence that you can do something consistently, through market corrections, through changes in life, through everything that normally erodes financial commitments. That evidence is worth more than the number in the account, in terms of what it predicts for the next 20 years. Year 20 and Year 30. Year 20. $24,000 invested over 20 years. Balance, around $52,000. The market generated $28,000, more than everything you contributed over 20 years combined. The money earned more money than you put in. The system you started 20 years ago with $100 a month now grows every year by more than you contribute annually. Year 30. $36,000 invested over 30 years. Balance, around $121,000. The market generated $85,000. You put in $36,000. For every dollar you contributed, the market added $2.36. Total return, 236% on your contributions. From $100 a month. From one decision made one evening in 20 minutes. Now look at what happens when you increase the amount. $200 a month for 30 years at 7%, around $243,000. $300 a month, around $365,000. $500 a month, around $608,000. The variable that matters most in all of these numbers is not the amount. It's the 30 years. Compounding needs time the way a fire needs oxygen. Without it, nothing happens. And with it, the results grow faster than logic suggests they should. And if you extend the timeline even further, the numbers become hard to believe. $100 a month for 35 years at 7%, around $175,000. $100 a month for 40 years, around $262,000. Same $100. 5 extra years added $54,000. 10 extra years added $141,000. That's not a typo. That's compounding doing what compounding does when you give it enough time. The growth doesn't move in a straight line. It curves. And the longer you stay, the steeper that curve gets. The person who starts at 25 with $100 arrives at 55 in a fundamentally different position than the person who starts at 35 with $300, even though the second person contributed more money. A decade costs more than a contribution. What actually changes? The balance changes. That's the obvious one. But the first thing that changes, back in month 1 when the balance means nothing, is how you relate to money. $100 a month is a financial education that pays you to attend it. Every month the account exists, you learn something real about how money works. Not from articles or videos, but from your own experience with real money in a real account doing real things. You start understanding compound interest because you can see it happening. You start noticing fees because you have an account with fees. You start looking at a credit card balance differently because you can now calculate what it's costing you relative to what the investment is producing. And there's one more thing that's harder to name. Remember checking your banking app at 2 in the morning? Not because you wanted to, because you were scared of what you'd see. Somewhere around year 5, that moment changes. The same hand reaches for the phone. The same screen glows in the dark. But now you're checking out of interest, not out of fear. Because something in there is growing, not standing still. That shift, from checking out of fear to checking out of curiosity, is what $100 a month actually buys. Not in month 1, by year 5. And it costs exactly $100 a month to get there. Let's go back to the beginning. The $100 that usually disappears between the 1st and the 15th. A dinner you barely remember. A subscription you forgot to cancel. What if this time it goes somewhere else? Not because $100 will change your life this month. It won't. But a year from now, you'll start noticing things you don't notice today. 5 years from now, the money will be working visibly. 30 years from now, for every dollar you put in, the market will have added more than 2. And at some point, you'll open the app. Not because you're scared, just because you're curious. It all starts with one automatic transfer. $100. On the 1st of the month. One time. Start tonight. If this was useful, subscribe and leave a like, and drop a comment below. Are you starting today? Let me know.